But now we're going back to time trials, and they need to perform there.
They need to perform for sure. Real pressure is on these teams. Nobody wants to get knocked out of this tournament. It is scripted content versus Fly Me Out, game 1.
The battle of the pinks, dude.
Oh, okay. We're bringing paladins back into the meta on this one. I'm loving this. All right.
Sloot would be so proud.
He would be. He would absolutely. And I kind of like Holy Paladin as well for this dungeon. I don't think that Way of the Crane gets insane value as it does in other dungeons with higher trash density. It's just alright. But I do think that you can really make Paladin work to very strong effect on this one as well. So very cool to see. We haven't seen, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we've seen a prop Paladin at all this expansion, or maybe only in a couple early seasons.
It's been a hot minute.
It has been quite a while. It's long overdue.
Okay, so scripted content is doing the whole entire Golden Serpent room. Basically, it's Necrotic here, so you have to normally be fairly scared. But since they are playing that Paladin, there's a lot of tools that Protection Paladin brings that will make this pull look significantly safer. Look at Felnator. His health's not even moving. He's literally standing in his bubble, just standing there face tanking everything.
Oh, there we go. And then he takes one hit. One cast goes off, and there goes half his HP.
We saw the upsides and the downsides.
Yeah, that's right. Right at the very start of the dungeon.
On the side of Fly Me Out, though, they're playing Dwarf Protection Warrior with a Pally, so they also have a large utility suite at their disposal for being able to deal with Necrotic fairly quickly. So scripted content has downed the Golden Serpent room where Fly Me Out is killing all these animated guardians by themselves.
Yeah, that was extraordinarily weird. I mean, the big benefit, you'll see on live servers a lot of times, they'll say, okay, yeah, we'll kill all of the golems, for example, all together. Usually an efficient pull there, but whenever you're in an MDI setting, being able to grab all of those mobs and bring them in, or grab 2 at a time or something like that and bring them in with the gauntlets, usually so insanely efficient, and everybody's done it before, so I don't really get why they made that choice.
Ooh, Elismir looks like he's playing that Formless Void. You actually saw him yoinking somebody's essence. I don't know exactly who it would be, but he also does drop down that. He drops down the airstrike from the Lightforged Draenei Racial.
That's right. I don't think it really matters because I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be running with Blood of the Enemy anyway. So,
oh, true.
Unless he's taking a tank essence, which I would not bet money on.
Take a gander. Hold up. The tank is running Strength of the Warden, so I mean technically he could take it, right? And then like bubble taunt.
True. Okay,
but
that would be some ridiculous strats.
Suffer's getting so low. Okay, he gets bopped and pops his shield wall at the exact same time there. They still have like another pull to do in the Golden Serpent room where scripted content here doing a more meta strategy of pulling. They're playing the animated guardians with the Golden Serpent. They're going to be down to Golden Serpent here in a few moments. They're pretty far ahead.
This is remarkably weird to me. Not only because we know, what are the more efficient routes to be able to go through, but there's only a 2-minute difference in time trials between these teams. So it's not like they shouldn't know these strategies. This is one of the time trial dungeons that they had to be practicing like crazy. And you're right, Bloodlust went out for a singular trash pull. I'm a little confused on this one, Tettles, and usually whenever I'm uncertain, I need to ask you, or I write a little mental note that I'll ask you later.
My friend Drat knows about this one later.
Hey, Drat knows the routes, so
this is his expert route, I think.
Oh. What is scripted content running then?
The Drat knows master route.
There's a master route too? Man, this guy.
If you're an elite, it's saved for elite gamers.
Oh, well, why would you have access to it then?
I don't. That's the point. So scripted content here has made their way into the area where they're dealing with all the kings inside of the room. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here are the minions of Zool.
Oh yes, they're spooky boys.
Okay, so there's none that are fixated on the Felinator currently. Oh, Binding Shot actually comes out from Moose to be able to deal with those minions of Zool. They get multi-shot down. That was actually really good by scripted content to finish those off.
I mean, assuming that this is going to be, the route that they started using for their time trials. I know they didn't have an impressive time in here, but they couldn't have been too far behind scripted content, which looks like they're just doing a very traditional route, right? It seems like what we've seen out of scripted content has been, the standard, the usual, the general way that it goes. And right now we're just seeing some very weird strategies that Fly Me Out. I think at this point they're going to need some ridiculous plays in Machimba's room as well as the bridge to start making up a lot of the time that they lost, because this is just like cookie cutter example of why routes are so important, you know, how you're setting up those pulls, what you're using Bloodlust on. I guess that they just forgot that they use Bloodlust. I can't fathom a reason for why you'd only use Bloodlust on a 3-pack of mobs, you know?
Okay, well, Dratnus just typed in chat. He said, yeah, that one's in the expert route. Okay, so...
Oh. Good to know. Thanks, man.
Dratnus confirming.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, Dratnus.
Smiley face.
Coming through with the help.
Hey, you know, Alice got to drop the early updates.
Yeah, he's got to drop the knowledge bombs on us. So now they have the king and the queen to be able to deal with. Okay, so you actually do see Felinator was dropping pretty low there. You need to make sure that you interrupt the Shadow Bolts, but since Fel is on that Protection Paladin, he should be able to get pretty much every interrupt by himself pretty comfortably at this point.
Was he running over 40 corruption as well?
Let me take a look. I will get back to you.
Yeah, doing a little bit of automatic math onto this one, because it looked like there was a thing from beyond that was coming straight for him, but I was not quite sure. I am seeing that he is running with some more avoidant pieces as well. I've seen a number of players running with just a little bit of extra avoidance, since they're able to optimize the stats where they want them.
So he's got TD3, so 75. He's got Avoidant 1, which is 8. And he's got a Gushing Wound 1. Then he has...
So that's 98 corruption.
60 resist.
So 38.
Yeah, so so he should not be running anything from beyond.
We did it!
This is a math stream now.
That's right. Get ready for your arithmetic. It's not just about adding up trash mobs. It's about adding up corruption.
We're doing quick math here in the MDI broadcast. Scripted content, getting some additional count. They pulled these animated guardians fairly late compared to where we see most other teams pull them. I wonder what the reasoning for that is.
Did we not already see? Is there another one coming around?
No, you see him on their screen right there. Like they got the minions of Zool.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. Sorry.
During the king and all those little dudes that'll stack up your necrotic really quick. Mm-hmm. But then the animated guardians came in.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Minutes later.
That's what I was thinking of. Is like something slowed it down, or
they didn't?
I don't know, but because like you mentioned, they grabbed them. They already. I don't know if they went back twice for them, but there's some weird stuff going on. I mean, all the mobs are dead by the time that the gate opens, so should be no harm, no foul onto that one, and they're already moving on towards Samrek the Beckoner. So I don't think that it's too far behind in terms of time, but as you mentioned, it's one of those things that if left unattended or just comparing it to the top teams, you'll notice how more quickly people will be able to do those things. So kind of odd, but scripted content is going to be moving forward here and are already taking down all the little fell beasts that are surrounding Samrek. So I'm curious to look at how these teams are going to be handling Machimba's room, because we've already seen some of the top time trial times being able to get consistency out of Machimba's room and dealing a lot of damage in there. So I wonder what we're going to be seeing out of scripted content onto this one, because they've really stepped up throughout time trials at least, and we're kind of getting to know them more as this is their first tournament setting.
Yeah, so scripted content, and they do not... So Feldinator does not have access to that Blessing of Protection right now to be able to remove the necrotic stacks, but he does have access to that bubble with that very powerful bubble taunt effect to be able to maintain threat on the mobs during the duration of the bubble. It gets him a nice necrotic reset. That plus the combination of having Ring of Peace and Binding Shot at his disposal, Fel should be fine in terms of necrotic stacks. Protection Paladin and Brewmaster Monk are probably two of the best tanks at being able to deal with necrotic. So it should be okay. Scripted content actually ends up pulling Machimba straight into all of these construct mobs as well. So this is a very standard pull coming in from scripted content. Oh, Drunk dunks on all of those embalming fluids too.
Wow. All right. And there they all go as Machimba's down to 83% as they're just whittling away the remaining HP on those additional constructs. It was just like in an instant they were gone.
That's a really healthy construct there. That could be really bad if he gets an Entomb cast off. But scripted content notices that he's healthy. Right as he starts his Entomb cast, they are able to down him. Basically, if he gets his Entomb cast off while Machimba is active, then you're not able to get the person out of the sarcophagus, or you spawn a mummy. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but I know it's not a good deal if you do end up having that happen. So scripted content, they're running a pretty meta strategy in King's Rest for a team that's not running what we would deem a standard meta comp.
Yeah, and that's always the interesting thing to look at is how far teams are able to go with the right strategies, but maybe not what is considered the optimal combination of classes and meta game that you will be seeing onto this one. So still very well played by them as they're pulling through with the lead over Fly Me Out by quite a significant margin at this point, continuing to extend it. And it just seems like the mistakes made early on between Fly Me Out, playing it almost like a live key, just seems to be putting them at a large disadvantage. That being said, neither team had phenomenal times, what we would consider phenomenal times. Both of them were 6th plus in terms of their time trial ratings versus everybody else. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for Fly Me Out to just start getting back into this race, but they need to be able to put something big together in Machimba's room.
I mean, so the big equalizer here is if somehow Fly Me Out could do like a triple pull after Machimba, and scripted content ends up having to take this post. So the big equalizer here is if somehow Fly Me Out could do like a triple pull after Machimba, and scripted content ends up having to take this post Machimba pull pretty slow because they don't have access to that bubble taunt right now. Then they could be in good shape. But I suspect the utility of the Paladin plus the utility of the Mistweaver Monk should allow scripted content to be able to like triple pull here, just because of how that Avenger Shield is able to get a ton of kicks on these Hex Priests. And Felinator mounting up on his trusty steed, running in, only going to be a double pull. Very dangerous, but smaller than what we've seen so far in this tournament.
That's right, and Suffer's taking quite a bit of time to organize all of the incubation fluids and constructs here on the side of Fly Me Out. And now they're starting to work to grab everything together, but there's still quite a bit of difference in terms of HP. We do see Machimba getting pulled right off the bat, grabbing up everything in together, and we're looking for Shadows to start annihilating all of the incubation fluids, going up to 4 million DPS right now. Suffer is able to start dropping his Necrotic stacks. One of the constructs is still quite healthy, as you were mentioning the threat earlier, but they should be able to deal with it quite rapidly.
Yeah, they just need to make sure it dies before his Entomb cast goes off. The reason that teams end up pulling the mobs, those constructs, into Machimba at 80%, like the breakpoint is you're waiting for the first Entomb. Once you get those 2 players out, then you just like Bloodlust and go. Like you're good to go at that point. Scripted content is actually not pulling these raptors. Okay, so they're using their shroud. They all pop a Lightfoot potion, and they're running all the way down the bridge area.
Here comes the Quaking. Okay, good spread.
As long as Felinator's in the front, he should be okay. Everybody else has a way to be able to drop out of combat, I believe. Actually, I think Displacer's maybe human. No, Displacer's is Dwarf. Displacer's is actually playing Dwarf. It's hard to tell racial sometimes whenever you look at how long the Mistweaver Monk bar is.
Yeah, there's tons of different abilities. We didn't even have Way at the Crane up there. There's so many different abilities that they can start pulling up on top of that. Yep, they do end up taking what I really assume is only going to be pulled into the boss right now. Double Berserker and Kula the Butcher as we speak. And we are going to start seeing some of the bleeds start coming up for these Berserkers, but it seems like they get the quick parry on the side of Felinator on the first one.
Oh, easy game, bro.
That's right. It's just, matter of skill, whether or not you'll be able to parry it or not.
I mean, okay, so Moose's pet actually died, so I assume that he probably pet taunted.
Okay. It's trusty mount. Pet.
Ooh, Moose with the turtle.
But Moose is making big moves.
Dude, Moose is making plays.
Making very big plays. Yeah, we've seen it a million times over how strong it has been to bring these hunters alongside just to make sure that you're going to be able to have everything at your disposal. Another really cool thing that, in case you're not sure where Kula's going to aim and who she's going to hit, she'll always aim her body at that player. So in the case of moves, if he's behind the entire group like you're seeing him standing right now, he's able to know if he's being targeted by it just by looking at the positioning of Kula there. The second bleed did go on Displacers, but he just uses his monk ratio really quickly, and he's good to go. Unfortunately, there's no engineering. Just 2 days ago, I had my NG Helm proc the Cauterizer, and it removed the bleed the second it applied. It was the dream.
That's the good RNG. You're just like, I'm so smart.
I'm so skilled. Thank you. It was actually
Fly Me Out
right as I got locked out from Quaking. And I was like, this is the end.
Fly Me Out actually ends up doing a triple pull here. So something similar to what we saw Goosey Bad and Method NA doing earlier. A really aggressive pull. They have the perfect finesse to be able to deal with it. That is not a live pull. That is not the Dratnus Expert route.
That is not even the master route either. That is big pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they do a great job making sure they get away from the ring right here. They get away from the Healing Tide Totem. Looks like they're going to be going double Obelisk. Here we
double Obelisk,
go.
yeah.
All right, well, now we're going to see Fly Me Out start turning it up quite a bit as they do grab double Obelisk. I wonder if there's any snap spots that they can just insta-port these guys onto them at the group. Because trying to get away from that open field will be extremely valuable. They do still have tentacles coming up. Might start dropping some slows onto the players as they really want to get that line of sight going, get all the tentacles spawned on top of them. Got to make sure they still continue to line of sight that other Mind Rend tentacle. Yep, you see this casting onto Azuna right now.
Azuna, yeah. So what's interesting to me is that Fly Me Out, since they're playing double Obelisk here, will only be playing one Obelisk with King Dazar, which is... That's a really safe strategy. Yeah. Thanks for the Thanks for the compliment. That's a really safe strategy, especially relative to what we've seen from most teams in MDI scenarios so far. Like, even scripted content is going to be playing triple Obelisk with King Dazar. Like, something like a Protection Paladin is heavily favored to play Voidweaver Malthier as well.
Oh, it completely just shuts it down onto that one.
That's the clutch class for playing Voidweaver Malthier. That's what you hope to have. Like, so say you take it into Yasma, you just get every single kick with the Pally. That's the OP strats right there.
That's right. I got next. Oh, I got next. Oh, another shoot reset. I got next.
One more. One more.
Fly Me Out, still working on the double Obelisk strat as they've been taking care of all the ads without an issue. But this is also eating good positioning-wise, but this eats up a ton of time just to grab everything in together.
Oh my goodness, this is very dangerous. But yeah, okay, I actually like that binding shot. That binding shot there coming out from Moose is allowing everything to get grouped up. Okay, so now Drunk is able to get all of his damage. You do see the airstrike coming through, the Lightforge Draenei Racial popping off, big damn. And now Drunk is starting to pop his ramp. You see the D&D drop down, and now he's starting to accelerate up the damage meter. He's going to probably be passing Moose here momentarily. Actually, never mind, there's been... there's a little bit less ramp than I initially anticipated for all the DKs that we see. Yeah, exactly.
I guess,
Moose topping the meats.
I guess this is just like another really safe way of doing it, safe and consistent way of doing it, but it does eat up quite a bit of time with having to do all this backtracking. If anybody died, of course, they could just spawn right there with that checkpoint, but yeah. Last dot tick going out onto Felinators. He's getting another bite to eat to start topping himself off as they're at 91% on Trash. Just need... I think that's all they need. They just need Zool and
plus,
the Obelisk.
Yeah, triple Obby. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so basically they're at 1730 at this point. So they probably finished this dungeon at what, like 22 and a half or something like that?
I think that's around their time trial times, if I'm not mistaken. I think their time
24:05.
trials... Okay, then they're going much faster than their time trials throughout this. It's a weird sort of MDI light, I guess. I feel like that's a bad way of saying it, but they're doing some of the MDI pulls, but they have such heavy safety blankets to make sure that they're able to do these things consistently. So
I don't hate that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it keeps them enough in the running with a lot of strong teams, like the top tier teams, that they could capitalize. They could be in a position to capitalize off of one of their wipes because everybody in the world is playing with all of these Awakening mobs. So having to go back and do it again if anybody were to wipe takes up massive chunk of time.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just putting yourself in a position to be able to capitalize on other people's mistakes while you yourself are running what is like a little bit safer of a strategy. I think ultimately I don't hate that. You put yourself in an okay spot, and ultimately it's going to be what you're comfortable with, and that's why Felinator on this Protection Paladin as well. He's made this Protection Paladin look really good in this dungeon.
Well, that's the interesting thing we've seen a number of times throughout MDI of when players are running something off meta, we always see them try to leverage that towards their advantage. They really like lean into whatever utility is brought to the table. When we didn't see like a lot of mages brought into Dagor last season, for example, we would see mages completely solo everything in the world. On areas of Dagor, or they'd be using the Ring of Frost to great effect, something along those lines. We see Vengeance Demon Hunters in Siege of Borealis, or now in Dagor with Sanguine, where they're using every single sigil in the world to make sure they have everything covered. So those kind of things I'm always really impressed by. I'm always really anxious to see what they're going to bring, because not only is it, hey, I like this class, so I'm going to play it, it's also, I think I have some really cool niche strategies directly involving my class.
I mean, and right on time. Like, okay, so basically every team that we've seen do King's Rest thus far, they'll, like, if they're playing Voidweaver Mouthier with the boss, they'll start by standing on top of Voidweaver Mouthier. Scripted content with that Protection Paladin and the, like, overabundance of interrupts is playing. They were playing to the opposite side.
Oh, we gotta watch it right here. Felinator's in a huge amount of trouble. Displacer's got the curse onto him, wasn't able to heal. Fel goes down. Displacer's needs a res from Drunk at the moment, but Thalamir's also really low. They don't have a way to be able to taunt everything back in together, and it looks like we're gonna just have a whole heap of deaths that just started with Felinator standing in the Tank Buster's AoE, his Dark Fury. And right now, they are just scrambling to try to put this together and try to keep everybody alive. Drunk's about to get Goomba stomped by the boss. Bell goes down because he's too close. Scripted content, despite their safety net, have just fallen through the cracks. And Fly Me Out, they've got a chance to be able to take this one.
Oh, they're absolutely... With one obelisk...
Yeah, that's true. They got a wide open stretch of road.
They still have Shadow of Zul, though. Oh, goodness, dude, this is going to come down to the wire. But now, scripted content with 8 deaths has a 40-second disadvantage in terms of that. They need to get back to Shadow of Zul. Their Awakened mobs, all 3 of them, are going to spawn again. They don't have Bloodlust to be able to deal with it.
They don't have Paladin defenses, okay? You want to talk about having a long... Yeah, you want to talk about having a long list of auras for defensives. You talked about how the Monk had a ton. Paladin has a laundry list of cooldowns at their disposal, and not having them is just ridiculously debilitating.
Oh goodness, that's really rough for scripted content, because now they don't feel like they can play triple obelisk with the final boss without Bloodlust.
They just absolutely can't. I mean, that was on Fel straight up, just standing in the Dark Fury, taking all of that extra damage. And he missed his kick. I assume that he'd be able to have the shield kick, or somebody else was missing their kick onto the healer. Curse debuff goes out. Displacers can't heal for anything with low haste. Absolute disaster chain of events right now. Fly Me Out still dealing with Shadow of Zul. You do see Shadow jump into the orb, jump into that circle right there as Ellesmere gets feared. Suffer's about to go down. He does. Shadow of Zul takes his life. Ellesmere's at the moment. Debuff's coming out. Reversify might die. Okay. They do end up saving him, but
they're good.
Little failures right here. It's just so important. These little jobs. We saw the debuff go out from... we saw the fear go out from the small minion of Zul that was spawned. Oh my goodness.
What a run.
Yeah.
How is Ellesmere by the way? I thought Pallies don't use mana,
listen,
Jack.
they use mana when you need to spam one target forever. Alright, and that is exactly the scenario they had to do. And
okay,
he wasn't even able to utilize any Light of the Martyrs when he was dropping low himself.
Fly Me Out doesn't have Bloodlust available yet for another minute.
He got Corruption slowed. Suffered got Corruption slowed and ended up standing in the Dark Fury once again. Ellesmere's got wings up, so he will be able to deal with the Tank Buster pretty easily on this one. But man, why are we running Tank Buster with this? This hurts so bad.
35 seconds and death differential too. Basically, scripted content is really, really far behind. They would need Fly Me Out to
fly off the rails.
Basically have a full wipe at this point, right?
Absolutely, and that's not going to happen at this point, as Tank Buster's almost down. They are also working on Raban quite a bit, so they might just straight up kill Raban without even pushing Bizarre that quickly. But Felinator goes down once again. This Tank Buster is too much, man, as scripted content is going to be having another wipe. And Fly Me Out, the road is theirs, the runway is theirs. They can fly, because planes go on runways.
Stop that.
Thank you, Tettles.
Man. Oh. Spotlight on Moose.
Good old Moose POV.
Did he get hit by the Tank Buster and just go down?
He got hit by a Tank Buster and just wasn't able to get away from the mobs. He didn't actually have separation, and I think part of it might also be just some of his defensive use and separating some of his defensives. I'm kind of surprised that, I think it's Seraphim that's competing with Last Defender, with how trash dense of the pulls that they were doing. I'm kind of surprised that they weren't running with that before, but that might be a story for a prop paladin main.
I am not a prop paladin, but I do know that Seraphim is on the road with LDAS.
I know things.
Fly Me Out here, getting King Dazar towards that 50% range, going to be mounting up onto Zala here momentarily. The last little bit of a... This is basically the last point in which... Oh, wait, they're already down to Zala. Never mind, I'm trolling.
Are you okay? You doing math again?
Maybe. Maybe?
You okay? 30% left on King Dazar as Fly Me Out looks to be limping over the finish line on this one. And while it's a time trial dungeon, this week's time trials in general, I would say, titles have been very punishing to people.
Bolstering Underrot is abnormally challenging, as is Necrotic King's Rest. Scripted content, more Troubles in Paradise as they have a few more deaths on King Dazar, where Fly Me Out slowly going to be able to complete the Dratnos Expert route and take map number 1.
That's right.
You know what? Good for them. That was faster, I'm pretty sure, for Fly Me Out than their time trial run. And they ended that with only 1 death. So, I mean, those polls may not have been as big as some of the, as scripted content may have been doing, and but they ended up, winning that one, Dratnos.
Yeah, that
was rough. Let's call it what it is. That was rough.
Oh, man.
It was a real tortoise against a slightly slower tortoise type story.
Yeah.
But they managed to get through it in the end, which was what matters. So
I want it to be known that scripted content definitely did not lose because of Protection Paladin.
well,
they lost because of like the tank's mistake, though, right? I don't know if Warrior would magically have like escape tool. Well, they'd have better mobility certainly if they just having leap to run out of there or something along those lines. But it was just standing in Dark Fury, missing a kick on top of taking a bunch of extra damage. When your healer's debuffed, slowed cast speed, on top of the tank having Dark Fury going out and taking a heap of melee hits on top of it with nothing to sustain him, they're just gonna get another dungeon like that.
yeah.
Where was it exactly that it started to fall apart for them, Jack? Because they were doing pretty cleanly up
A dungeon like that.
Yeah.
Where was it exactly that it started to fall apart for them, Jack? Because they were doing pretty cleanly up until they just couldn't really get through anything without having somebody die.
Just tank busters deal a ridiculous amount of damage, and having to do that, and with how long the pull can also take. I mean, you're running with, for example, the Unholy DK, or just the composition that they're running in general isn't yielding massive single target damage that they can just laser down every single obelisk at once, for example. So I think a lot of it is just the tank buster was too debilitating for them, and they weren't really... They were running with Blood of the Corruptor, right? So they didn't really have some magic strat to get the tank buster taken down super quickly. They just took such a long period of time, ran out of cooldowns, ran out of defensive, stood in extra void zones, and then that was it.
Well, I think also, after their first wipe, once they lost Bloodlust, they were in just terrible shape, too.
Yeah, they lost Bloodlust. They lost a lot of really long cooldowns that Prop Paladin has, 5-minute cooldowns on various defensives. Even though they went to do that Blood of the Corruptor obelisk afterwards to make the fight a little bit more easy, it wasn't enough to make it killable from that point easily for them.
Yep, definitely unfortunate. But you think Dratnos, that had they switched off of that Prop Paladin onto something else, that it would have gone maybe the same way?
So Felinator's a Prop Paladin main, and I think that they had a lot of good things that they were doing with Prop Paladin in that dungeon. I definitely agree that it was not a, the story of this dungeon isn't Prop Paladin caused them to lose. The story of the dungeon is, there's 2 teams with slower, more rough around the edges King's Rest plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see if they can clean that up for this next game. But before we get into that, Dratnos, what did you want to highlight from that last one?
Yeah, so I want to use this to talk a little bit about some of the Prop Paladin abilities and utility that were brought here, as this is something that we don't really see all that often in the MDI. So one of the things that they were making a lot of use of was Bubble Taunt. So Felinator talented into this, where the Divine Shield comes with an AoE taunt as well. And this let them do really powerful pulls onto bosses that normally would be maybe tough for Prop Paladin to survive on pull, very easily at the start of the pull. Onto the second boss, it looked really strong, because they were able to annihilate all the uses there before the Divine Shield even wore off. Against Shadow of Zul, even Protection Paladin, also very strong compared to Prop Warrior. If you look at the total amount of HPS being done on that fight, Prop Paladin sitting at about 100k there. Pretty impressive number for the tank to be putting out. It's not as high as maybe Avengers Demon Hunter could do there, but you know, it's definitely better than what a Protection Warrior can manage against that magic damage heavy fight. And then on the last boss on pull, you know, they run in with that bubble taunt. The first 15, 20 seconds of that fight are looking good. They have all these massive cooldowns, the Protection Paladin. They've got, you know, Guardian of Ancient Kings, Ardent Defender on top of that bubble. And he has Bop as well to 30 seconds later to mitigate a Tank Buster hit. But just in general, his health was fluctuating wildly past that point, which is something that they need to figure out a workaround with when playing that Prop Paladin.
Do you think they'll play it again?
Well, Fulminator's a Prop Paladin main, so I think that he's likely to be looking for, in much the same way that like Ellesmere is looking for spots to play Holy Paladin, Fulminator's looking for dungeons where, you know, he can play Prop Paladin and prove it in their practice runs that it is just as good or better than the meta spec in that spot.
Yeah, because in contrast, we do have Ellesmere playing that Holy Paladin, which is also something that we don't often see. Jack, do you think this is a purposeful decision, or is this more of a comfort pick for them?
I mean, when you look at certain ways that you want to be able to bring your class in, I think you really have to look for scenarios where it's going to be giving you something new, it's going to be giving you something different than the norm. I think King's Rest in particular is a legitimate option to bring a Holy Paladin. The trash density in most of the pulls isn't too big for like a Mistweaver Monk, so it's not that Mistweaver would be bad for it, it's just that I think that Holy Paladin can start being more competitive in that sort of dungeon, because it's low trash density, still high single target pressure, there's a lot of good areas to take advantage of Blessing and Protection, or a Mastery even on top of Hand of Sacrifice. You have some very strong damage reduction defenses that you can really bring to the table on it, so I think that there are dungeons where they'll say, well, Monk's not that amazing, or, you know, this tank isn't that amazing, let me see if I can switch into something. But I think we've also looked at other areas where Dagor was, okay, we're just going to bring Vengeance Demon Hunter, and we're going to control all of the mobs and make sure that we're not going to be having to deal with too much Sanguine.
Yep, and to go off of that, we are going to be going to Dagor with Sanguine as well.
Look at that transition.
Thank you. Learn from the best. But we're going to be moving to Sanguine and Volcanic. And Dagor is a map, Tuttles, that we kind of predicted, thought that maybe would be a little bit more banned more often. However, this is, I think, the third time we're seeing it today. How are these teams sort of developing their strategy on this, where they are feeling more comfortable to play this map?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to the fact that they spent many hours in time trial dungeons, like inside of Dagor, so they already have like a really strong baseline strategy developed. Most teams are running like a Vengeance Demon Hunter with some like variant of Rogue Hunter and Death Knight, generally with a Mistweaver Monk. Like that is like a very typical composition for Dagor, just due to all of the strengths. With that Vengeance Demon Hunter too, like, you're able to CC the mobs even through the cannons and whatnot. I would, like, honestly, I think that the strategy for how you end up playing this dungeon on Sanguine really is smart, and we're going to watch how these two teams are able to finesse their way through the dungeon.
Absolutely, as they are making their way to the first boss here on Dagor. It is Fly Meow versus Scripted Content 1-2-0.
All right, and second round coming up right now, as Scripted Content and Fly Me Out are having very similar pulls, and both about to be pulling the Sand Queen in. We'll see if Scripted Content's about to do the same. Looks like they're in that position, but they do get out a really quick Sigil of Chains on that end. I was kind of surprised that they weren't doing that when the mobs were closer to dying.
It's okay, so basically right here, this is really on your Mistweaver Monk. Oh, actually, Scripted Content
it's
doesn't
on
even
Movesy.
Dude, that is the binding shot tech, and then Drunk just dunks all of those crabs. That's why they were being super patient. That makes a lot of sense, because the patience allows them to get into like what is effectively execute range for Drunk to be able to just slam them all the way straight through. That was very clean by Scripted Content. I've watched some teams practice inside of Dagor, and the amount of times where Sand Queen would be sitting at 70% and just heal all the way to full is
Suffer going down. Fly Me Out's working to recover. Shadow goes down as well, as he still hasn't accepted the res onto this one, so I'm not sure if he's just in a horrible area, or they're just going to be going in for the wipe at this point, as there's nothing that's going to be able to get them back into this if Suffer doesn't res right now immediately, but the Sanguine just got topped from Sanguine. Drop it down.
Huh.
They got to be able to continue
Fly Me
with
Out.
this.
Fly Me Out's okay. They're able to recover here. Ellesmere trying to get
he's got
everybody
no
top.
mana, 98% on boss. That is a full wipe at that point.
Never mind. They're not able to recover.
Way of the Crane will burn a lot of mana, especially if people are being inefficient with their usage of Mana Tea, and it's very easy to like mismanage Mana Tea, and scripted content's mismanaging a lot of their pulls. As Drunk does end up going down, they have to manually res him with the engineering item. They do get him back up, and they're working to kind of clean this up, but there is Sanguine all over the place, as once again the drones are just mismanaged.
This is okay. This is why Dagor is actually just so incredibly challenging. It's because all of the teams are trying to do this dungeon in, let's say, 15 minutes, or like the 13 to 15 minute range is what we see in Dagor most of the time. And like just how you have to be able to deal with Sanguine into Sand Queen in super tight corridors with mobs that flee can be incredibly daunting. So scripted content, even while they have had some Sanguine mismanagement, has done by and large a good job.
Yeah, they've done an acceptable job on this one. They've done a fair job,
Yeah.
but that extra death really should not have happened at all, really. And it just goes to like how well they're controlling their AoE stuns, how well they're going to be utilizing, for example, their binding shot to make sure that they're killing everything together just like they did at the beginning. You know, that's kind of execution that you're also expecting out of the time trial runs, because no doubt this is very tough, and this goes against a lot of I guess traditional Mythic Plus MDI type thinking, where it's alright, grab everything together, kick what you're supposed to kick, and then blast everything, you know?
Pull it straight into the boss, yeah.
This is finesse, you know? This goes into a much different skill set, kind of similar to just utilizing very good single target to deal with bolstering, right? This is a different muscle these guys have to flex, and scripted content did well to be able to recover, but I'm not sure what was going on with Suffer's death there, as it falls under the same category. Finesse, how they're going to be able to bring these mobs down. Fly Me Out's not looking pretty at the start of the dungeon.
Being able to dodge the upheaval as a Vengeance Demon Hunter without like meld racial, it can be fairly challenging if you're not like super precise with it. But I didn't see exactly what he went down to. I think that also like there's something to note that like I don't think a lot of these tanks have just 1,000 hours on Vengeance Demon Hunter, and Vengeance is definitely one of those classes that if you look away for like one moment, you can drop your mitigation and just die. It like just with how their mitigation works. So let me look. Okay, so they are playing Gluttony. Both of them are playing Gluttony, so they have really high Vision of Perfection uptime since they are playing that talent. In addition to that, I suppose that they're both probably also playing... Okay, so Felinator is playing Strength of the Warden Major. What is Suffer playing?
I think he's running with...
Okay, they're both running Strength of the Warden Major, which is like... So that by itself is really challenging to be able to have their mitigation up. So if they're getting meleeed with like without anything, they can potentially go down.
Yeah, no question onto that one. And Fly Me Out does end up dropping the big fear bomb onto all those little drones, so they will be going further upstairs. I guess they're just going to be having their large Shadow Meld skip very early onto this one, but they do get a quick grip there on the side of Shadow to make sure they're able to get past a lot of these mobs. Scripted content opening up some of the cages through the door onto that one, making sure they get everybody's buffs for them. So if they're able to open through here, they'll be able to start getting more buffs and more damage and everything like that. Fly Me Out's waiting on verse 5 before they're going to go down and deal with the blood of the Corruptor.
Ooh, okay, so
big pull by Scripted.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so this pull is really challenging to be able to deal with just because these build drought looters, whenever they get low, they all flee in different directions. And since there are like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 of them, it can be fairly challenging to be able to deal with. So they need to make sure that they execute them quickly, then are able to get that thug out of all of the Sanguine. The Strikers as well will flee, but they will just stand there throwing rocks.
The Thug's cast went off and actually debuffed everybody, and
oh gosh,
Dis didn't want to use his revival for some reason onto that one. I not really sure why he wouldn't actually dispel everybody in his group, but as a result, we're going to have, still those looters just bathing in Sanguine. The striker right there. We're not having any sort of line of sight coming up by Fel. There's no DK grip. There's no Ring of Peace coming out. Nothing. He's just sitting there.
This is, okay, that is precisely what I was talking about whenever I was saying that Sanguine in Dagor is so challenging to be able to deal with, because there are so many mobs that just flee. That striker fleed an extra, I don't know, 3 yards and then just marinated in that Sanguine to get back to full health.
I think it's just the failure of not using Revival through and through. Like, if they had that extra damage buff, I think it's, what, 20-30% reduced damage dealt if you're debuffed by the Thug. That's a lot of damage. And that striker had almost no HP left. He was like 15% or something along those lines when he stepped into that Sanguine. I guarantee he would have been dead or have been able to be focused down and killed despite one Sanguine puddle or something like that if they had instantly dispelled it. I don't even think he got a single dispel off onto that one. I think he just let it tick on everybody all at once.
Ooh, scripted content doing...
Ooh, this is a nasty mismatch pull.
I actually don't hate this, because they ended up CCing the C speakers, and then they ended up grabbing every arsonist, and now we're just kiting the arsonist around with some of those yellow mobs that are back in that corner area. Now the C speakers get pulled. Sigil of Silence comes out to be able to silence everything down. Felinator doing a really good job of managing his metamorphosis / his demon spikes. Fly Me Out having like some more issues. I didn't see, what did Shadow Master die to?
We'll see how scripted content deals with this one, because they're going to have all those mobs running back into the Sanguine right now. That's what I was worried about when you have this big mismatch in health and you're not able to like bring them down closely. It's, they start coming back and you have to deal with them and waste even more time on top of it. This is just like the last floor that they were on. And now they're just trying to grab a couple extra mobs and they're just going right into boss whenever they can actually hit him. There we go. There we go.
My Sanguine is healing my Sanguine.
Yeah. Jess Hal is getting pulled right now. Fly Me Out's recovering from the 7 deaths that they've experienced thus far in the dungeon, clearing out some of the pockets of resistance that they have, some of the little neutral mobs. They're getting them all taken down in Jess Hallis' corner right here as they're getting ready to get themselves set up for clearing out this room. Okay, they're just going to go right into Jess.
So, really important to note that Sanguine actually does take 1 minute to despawn. So that scripted content, like, they have a ton of Sanguine in that hallway. It's probably almost all going to be gone by the time that Jess, like, runs around and, like, makes his way through the corridor. So they should be in an okay spot, as long as he doesn't just completely heal the full and hit all that Sanguine on his way back. Fly Me Out, dealing with Jess Hallis, I find it very interesting where they're tanking this boss. Because it's really difficult to double line the boss once Bobby comes out.
Yeah.
Sure, they're not below 70% yet, so Bobby's not available. But, like...
Bobby's not home?
Bobby's not home yet. But even still, it is very difficult to be able to double line if they plan to tank there for long periods of time. Oh, dude, look at all that Sanguine in that corner.
Yeah, there is a lot that's stacking up right now. I'm curious how Fly Me Out's going to deal with it, because right now they're just waiting on Jess Hallis to return. They're waiting on Sanguine to start despawning, as they're going to be grabbing any of the raiders, the Irontide raiders coming out. And those guys will not spawn any Sanguine, so they don't have to worry, since they were not activated by players. They were activated by the boss, so they don't give trash per count, and they do not drop Sanguine.
Exactly. So like Jack said, you can open up the cages to the side, and that's where the Irontide raiders lie. But if you just let the boss do it, precisely like Jack said, they won't do on-death fixes, but at the same time they won't get count. So you have to just kind of take it piece by piece and just really determine what you, like, whether or not you value the count or on-death fix or whatever.
Yep. And as it stands right now, I mean, Fly Me Out's about 13% math. Whew, 13% behind in terms of trash percentage, but they're pretty close together in boss percentage right now. So it might, despite all the issues that Fly Me Out had at the start, it might end up coming down to whether or not this lives or dies right now. They do have a battle res, but Fel's dropping quite low. They need to get him up right now. Drunk, get him up. You've got full runic power. Moves dies as well. This is going to be a full wipe. Fly Me Out's got their opportunity to get back in on this. Where's that res? I feel like he just went to go for that res, couldn't find him because Drunk is hiding behind the pillar. Drunk's hiding behind the opposite side of Thalamir right now.
Okay, so look at on the side of scripted content. Those C speakers and that block warden aren't going to reset because that's where that block warden is out of combat.
This is literally where you drop the key down.
Yes.
I'm
Exactly,
not even kidding.
Jack.
Like, I had this happen to me, last weekend.
This
Actually,
the
this
full
week, I
team
should
wipe
say.
in the Jess room is and then the block warden is sitting in front of the doorway as. Right, we drop it in 3 chests, I guess.
Yeah, so because these are 2 different factions of mobs, the Block Warden is for the the Block Warden is for the Ashvane Company, and the Sea Speakers are Iron Tide Raiders. They're 2 different brands or 2 different factions of mobs, so they're at war with each other. And when there's no players to fight, they will continue to fight each other, not killing each other, and just continuing. So at this point, they have to kill all of those guys together. Luckily for them, the Block Warden didn't fully heal. He was dropped to just 5% HP or something like that he could quickly kill. But now you have Sea Speakers running through Sanguine. Now you have a Striker that refuses to move and will die, dropping Sanguine right around where you need to pull Jess Howless. So, disaster scenario for scripted content, as Fly Me Out's got an opportunity to take the win, just like in King's Rest.
Well, you gotta capitalize on the opportunities that you were given, I must
That's
admit.
right, take what is offered.
Exactly. Okay, Fly Me Out, you saw Suffer there. He was running around in that upstairs area. He has gathered a beefy pull here for the cannon area.
This was going to be the area as well that Fly Me Out needed to be able to get back into the game. Now this is their opportunity to solidify their lead. Ellesmere just needs to get out of the way on that one. There's a lot of cannon fire going in his direction. I still don't like this positioning here. He's still quite vulnerable to any of the shots coming out from the players. Despite having Dampen Harm up, it's gone now. Shadow's taking a lot of damage. We don't see the Ring of Peace
mobs need to
just
get
yet.
stacked up more.
Yeah, they need to
Oh,
be Ring of
no,
Peace
man.
earlier. I think he waited too long. Oh, they're all bathing in Sanguine now. Oh.
Now you have to manually kill these.
Oh, manually
Oh,
killing
Shadow Master
8
died.
mobs. Shadow goes down. They didn't move the barrel.
There's a barrel.
They didn't move the barrel on this one. So they're running on restricted space as we speak. And now we all get a little taste of Tol Dagor time trials that these teams are experiencing.
This is Sanguine at his finest
This
form.
is Tol Dagor Sanguine.
This is the Twilight.
It really can be. It really can be. There, space is precious in this tightly enclosed dungeon, and this is no cathedral of Eternal. Is it Eternal Knights? It's Cohen, right? I think so.
The Cathedral of Eternal Night,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Very vast, large, widespread dungeon. We are in a cramped prison right now, and Sanguine has no mercy on all of us, right? As Fuse Lighter goes down, the last of the mobs go down. They didn't spend too long killing them, bright sides, right? But scripted content, they mopped up all the rest of those mobs. They're dealing with Jez Howless once again, and they're stabbing their Fly Me Out voodoo dolls.
Fly Me Out may actually get a very similar time to what they had in Time Trials. Fly Me Out had a 2045 in Time Trials, and they had a full wipe on the a full wipe and reset on the first boss here, and they're probably going to be within like a minute, right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good testament to their time trials or not.
Not my point.
I know what your point
My
is.
point was that they like if they do have a clean run, which okay, so wiping on the first boss is I would say something that can easily be fixed. They have a lot of room that they can quickly improve their run in this dungeon.
That's right. And handcuffs still going off, missing out on the interrupt. They have one more cannon shot left remaining, but they binding shotted all of the mobs inside Sanguine, and Suffer just has to run. He might even just die from some of the casts still channeling to him. Okay, Ellesmere does a great job stabilizing him. They're trying to once again run away onto these ones, and there's no more cannon shots left as there's just a bunch of low mobs. Once again, just kind of little failure mechanics left and right.
Oh, now they have to manually kill these two guys from
And
full health.
big thing from beyond.
Easy game. Not even close, baby.
That thing hurts.
I think it does hurt. I hate running thing from
I
beyond.
never run
Ranged
thing
in
from
this
beyond.
dungeon. Dude, this dungeon is trapped for it because I'm
barrel going off.
Oh no.
Okay.
So part of the reason that a lot of teams will elect to run Vengeance Demon in this dungeon is because of the control that it gives you, like in this cannon area. Basically, you want to chain a Ring of Peace into that Sigil of Chains, into that Sigil of Misery, to literally keep the mobs like pixel perfect stacked, and then at that point, the cannon shots do not break the Sigil of Misery. So you should, like, that's the combo that you want to do. Then you want to blast everything down with the cannon.
Yep. And
like, use a binding shot probably right there.
yeah, twice now, Ellesmere's rings have actually let one or two mobs through. And as a result, they were holding on to cannon fire, trying to make sure they could stack everything together. They sort of missed their window to be able to kill all of the mobs with the cannon, and again, just running into more problems one after the other.
Okay, for what it's worth, they actually do have an overabundance of cooldowns. Like, they have more cooldowns than they need to use per like cannon set. Like, I don't even think they need binding. Like, straight up, I just do not believe that they need a binding shot. But like, it just takes time. Like, honestly, Dagor is such a dungeon that requires so much practice and finesse, like we were talking about at the very beginning. It is incredibly hard to be able to pull off some of the more meta strategies for how to deal with the dungeon, and ultimately with Sanguine in tight corridors, while you're trying to do it in 15 minutes, you just need more and more practice. It's a very hard dungeon, and this is why we see it banned up a lot.
That's right, and
scripted content, dude. Look at this.
They're coming back into it. They're working to try to make sure they can get back into it.
Why we see it banned up a lot.
That's right, and
scripted content, dude. Look at this.
They're coming back into it. They're working to try to make sure they can get back into it.
That's how you do the cannon.
Huge
That's how you do the
sigil.
cannon.
Hey, there's the binding shot you said wasn't needed.
That's how you do the cannon.
Okay, they do have one. They have one. All right, not too bad. They do get it out, and they do hit another cannon shot onto it. So they killed everything but that Marine with 4 shots. That's great. That's great. That's what we really need to be able to see out of them. And they're ahead on trash percentage. They're pulling the mob right now, and they're pulling a lot of trash into Valyria on the side of Fly Me Out as they're working to catch up in terms of trash percentage. This might just come down to how well each team does on the boss. Final boss.
Dude, the final boss. Okay, Overseer Korgus with Awakened mobs. Whenever like, if you try to do this on live, I will look at you like you have 3 heads, because trying to fight Awakened mobs on Overseer Korgus is so scary. But in the tournament realm and like with enough practice, these teams have to be able to do it cleanly, and it is very dangerous. So both of these teams need to be able to get it the first time.
They really,
There's a lot of barrels for Fly Me Out. Oh my goodness.
They absolutely do. And now they're just hiding in the corner. They're chaining barrels together. They really need to be able to find some kind of safe spot as Versified goes down right now. Azuna hasn't been dispelled from his fire debuff, so he can't help out with any of the barrels as we speak. And at this point, Ellesmere just needs to get in there, grab a couple of the barrels that are going to be looking to chain, and get out quickly as Suffer goes to help out with some of them. I think they're just going to set that other barrel off. Oh, almost. Okay. They're just running to try to rescue these extra barrels. They don't have a battle res to be able to res Verse on this one. Scripted content also working on Valyria as we speak. Oh, what? Ellesmere just gets shot by the... He just gets shot. And they're just going to continue chaining barrels. They might just wipe here because they're not going to be able to survive.
Suffer is not in a safe spot.
They're going to die.
Okay, now...
Oh, man, the people are dropping so incredibly low onto this one.
Flame. Oh my gosh.
They're going to just straight up die from all of this. There's no way that they're going to be able to stay alive when they have no safe spots available. They might be able to hide in this one corner right now, but Suffer's going to have to go take a bath in Sanguine if he's going to hope to survive, but no healer left available to him. Full wipe on the side of Fly Me Out. The favor goes back to scripted content.
This is the perpetual pug dilemma where if your healer is not aggressive enough with moving barrels, you can get locked in an infinite chain like we just saw from Fly Me Out, where you will be chaining barrels just for all eternity and then panic having to like run across the room over and over and over again, and eventually you just run out of time / movement abilities and everything else. Azuna looks like he's waiting for Bloodlust to come up. Okay, so yeah, now he's going to be rezzing Ellesmere. Actually, I don't hate that play, but dude.
But at what cost? At what great cost in this one? As Dagor, this prison breaks even the hardiest of souls. 21% on Knight Captain Valyria scripted content, getting back into this race despite heroes and villains on both sides.
Gosh. Knight Captain Valyria has my favorite voice lines.
Oh, does she?
Yes. She screams, more fuel for the flames now!
More fuel for the flames.
And then there's the guy in the background goes, boom. And I just love it.
Is that you, Tuttle? So you helping out dropping barrels on the group?
I'm the lonely peon that drops the barrels on the players. That is my job.
We appreciate your help. Absolutely. you know what my favorite voice line is?
Please do tell.
Cannot evade my targeting systems.
You cannot elude my targeting system. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not in workshop
I
right
know,
now.
right? That's what we needed.
That's my favorite. Is that okay? So that is in this pool. Did it get banned? Let me take a gander.
Taking a little sneak peek. Pretty sure it is.
It is not banned.
So
okay, it would be the third map of the series, and you and I would be able to cast great voice lines of that of
see?
King Mechagon.
There is hope in the world right now. Scripted content taking care of the last of the wardens with their cannon fire. Play it very cleanly on this one as Fly Me Out's doing barrel duty. Taking down Knight Captain Valeri as scripted content just needs to be able to bring down this boss, and the obelisks partnered up with them, and they will be able to tie up the series 1-1.
Would you say that scripted content is writing their own script right now?
I don't think that my script would include resetting Jez Howless and having to re-kill some mobs. Personally, I don't know, but hey, you know, everybody loves a comeback kid.
We still got 3 chests of dungeon, right?
I thought it was
Wait,
8.
22?
I don't think that they're 3 chesting this. 2 chests.
2 chests. Drop it in 2 chests.
Drop it in 3 chests, okay? There you go. They are.
Weaver Malthier and Samrek Beckoner of Chaos here being engaged by scripted content. Ooh, Felinator with the clutch silent sigil. That was kind of OP. I like that.
That was great. Well, they're taking them down, focusing down on Samrek first to make sure that they can dodge any of the extra fears coming out onto this one. So good job stabilizing. We haven't seen any doubles thus far, so making sure that they're just staying in a favorable position. They do have to watch out for the... Okay, they don't have to watch out for the fears, thankfully. Once you kill Samrek the Beckoner, despite any of the debuffs going out, the debuffs will not detonate. They will not trigger a fear when the Beckoner is dead. But they did get a cast off going on to Diz right there as he is completely boom. And I believe he's running Mana Tea, so he's not going to be able to regen any sort of mana with Spirit of the Crane, unfortunately. As it just comes down to his ability to heal the boss. Oh no, it's just an energy bar.
No. So,
that's right. It's whenever you go into this boss fight, your resource bar gets replaced with your, I guess, secondary resource, your special resource,
exactly.
which is the Heart's Blood Venom. Okay. His was completely empty because he wasn't moving. Oh man.
Yeah, we had a moment of realization at the exact same time of what it was, and we're like, oh wait, hold up.
Right as I say it, I'm like, wait a minute, this makes 0 sense.
Yeah, okay, so Corgus, dude, they didn't touch Corgus whenever they had those double obelisks up. When are they gonna bloodlust?
You know, next dungeon's coming up. I think they feel confident to be able to use it there.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I think that part of them might just be so filled with adrenaline with the realization that they're ahead in this race despite some massive mistakes on both sides, for that matter, that they just completely blanked on it. We'll know in a minute when the delay catches up.
Don't save it for next. Please don't save it for next dungeon.
Oh my goodness. Well, last bits of percent are winding down on Overseer Corgus. None of the obelisk mobs left out, dealing with the same situation that we saw from scripted content, dealing with double obelisk mobs. Ellesmere does get hit by the curse debuff right now, and every time that happens, I wish I had a kick.
One kick, please, sir.
One interrupt. He's also standing quite far out at range here, so he's not really able to get much of any sort of damage out whatsoever. And he is running Rising Mist as well. Azuna goes down. Ellesmere is just far out there, not really able to get many hot extensions up to more easily AoE heal because he has to stand out at range. So not really contributing any damage. They have 0 reses. Lust is just winding down. Scripted content about to kill Overseer Corgus in what has been a fascinating adventure in Toldagor. Suffer goes down as well. The group's gonna wipe once more. This dungeon has broken them.
Dungeon's broken me. I started doing boss lines.
You guys sound broken yourselves.
Well, we didn't get to see Steven Seagal, so it was also an unfortunate situation.
Oh god. Oh man. I just want to point out, he made that reference last time we were on Toldagor, and I thought he said Sanguine really weird when he said it. When he said Steven, and he was really sad that no one heard his reference. But good job, Jack.
Seagal.
Proud of you for that one.
Second time's a charm.
Yeah. You just gotta really loudly spell it out, and it'll get to us. We'll get to it eventually. But good news is this is going to go to a game 3 that is all tied up for scripted content versus Fly Me Out. It is now 1-1. We are going to workshop, and we're going to be able to hear Jack and Tettle's beautiful...
Aya. Let me interrupt you for one moment. Moose just typed in the chat, "OMG, we didn't lust," in all caps.
No, dude.
That's a lucky. So they really saving it for next dungeon.
It feels like there's a strong possibility that maybe they ran out of drums, given how long they've been running dungeons today so far.
Yeah, this economic climate.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use my
This economy.
expert opinion here as the host here and say, if you're listening, you're supposed to lust there. So don't forget that next time here on Workshop, which is gonna be the next map. And I was gonna say before Tettles interrupted me that we're gonna see you guys' awesome King Mechagon impressions.
I can't wait.
Oh, thank goodness.
And
We're not going to be able to elude them, yeah.
I think that this should go out without saying, but we should definitely say it again. That Dagor dungeon is ridiculously hard for a lot of teams to be able to pull off. And while there's the jokes, while there's the funny parts of it, despite all the practice in the world, there's still a ton of mistakes that can be made. So credit to both teams for toughing it out, despite what looked like just game-losing wipes from both sides onto that one. And now we get to a much cleaner decider match, too.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, like you said, those are with that affix combo. We've definitely seen teams struggle on Dagor, but hopefully coming into this workshop, it'll be a little bit cleaner, like you said, Jack. But there's a lot to unpack there from that game. Tuttles, Dratnos, what did you want to highlight from that last game?
Understandable mix-up. Yeah, so this was really a story about teams, having something go wrong and doing their best to lose as little time as possible to it. We saw a lot of things go really wrong, and some impressive recoveries. For instance, scripted content were able to get a res off and have their rogue survive after what would have otherwise been a very, very costly wipe in the middle of the dungeon. That absolutely made up the difference in the timer at the end there, if Fly Me Out hadn't wiped again at the very end of the dungeon. The first cannon area was also something where we saw Fly Me Out's first cannon pull It was not very clean. They still had like 7 mobs alive at the end of it, and they were able to survive despite a death and get through that pull without the cannon shots afterwards. So very, hats off to them. Also, hats off to scripted content for pulling off that cannon pull without having very many mobs left alive at the end either. That looked very, very clean from them. At the end of the day, it really came down to just the number of mistakes on both sides and how costly each of them were, with the final kind of nail in the coffin being Fly Me Out, actually wiping when they were ahead on Knight Captain Valerie. And when that happened, it was pretty much in scripted content's court from there, and most of the hard parts of the dungeon were already over, so they were able to take it home from there.
And as this is tied up, these guys only need, if they lose one more time, they're going to get knocked out of the tournament, unfortunately. And as we are moving on to Workshop Tettles, do you think that this is going to be a cleaner game for both of these teams?
Oh, absolutely. I feel, okay, so Workshop just as a whole, how you do it on live versus how you do it on Tournament Realm is going to be fairly similar just as a whole. Sure, it is teaming. Sure, it is also bolstering, so there's going to be like 1 or 2 different pulls that you're going to be looking to do. But like, realistically, there's just far fewer breaking points. Because, like Jack was saying, dude, Dagor is such just a brutal dungeon that you just kind of have to slog through to be able to even deal with. And just the points. Because, like Jack was saying, dude, Dagor is such just a brutal dungeon that you just kind of have to slog through to be able to even deal with. And just the amount of finesse and practice and time that has to be put in to be able to do it at even this level that we saw from both of these teams is still just so immense. Workshop, on the other hand, like 10 runs maybe, and you're probably good to go.
Yeah, there's like one bolstering adjustment that's pretty common we're seeing from these teams where they're opting to skip most of that waste processing unit area and instead do an extra pull at the very end of the dungeon. But besides that, it's a pretty, cookie cutter route that you can just do every week regardless of affixes in there. That makes it a lot easier than something like Dagor where affixes like Sanguine or Bolstering can really change the entire texture of the dungeon.
How do you think that they're going to handle those Awakened mobs at the end? Or if they're at the end. I don't know why I said
I think
at
it's
the end,
2 or 3.
It's usually 3.
Yeah.
Three is, I think, the number that is more standard among the higher seeded teams. It's possible that one of these teams will lower that down to 2. We have seen 4 once. That was from Complexity Limit last time around. But that means that you have to do that robot gauntlet area. So you have to, in order for that to be a time save, you also have to execute that robot gauntlet area perfectly. So most teams are opting to instead just take that kind of free obelisk right there.
That's not a time save
Yeah,
at all. By the
even if
way.
you play it well. Yep.
Marginal at best. Yeah, I think is the conclusion.
So what you guys are saying is it would be better for both of these teams to go for 2 or 3 obelisks and definitely not go for
4
that
would be
obelisk
wild.
strat by,
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 would be
3
wild.
And it's not a
3
time
is
saver,
common.
anyways.
It's exactly. It's like at best it's like 10 seconds, and it's only 10 seconds if you can do the robot gauntlet without having anybody get caught by one of those detect bots things.
Yeah.
And at worst, you have to play Voidweaver Mouthier with the final boss.
Yeah.
Right. That which it depends on your composition, right? Last time around we saw those fire mages just melting those awakened enemies at the end boss, but I think we might see something a little different this time.
Hopefully. Well, these teams are only 1 game away from continuing on in the series or being knocked out of the tournament. It is 1-to-1 scripted content versus Fly Me Out on Workshop.
So, possess a modicum of skill.
Oh, God.
I see the pink class in this dungeon.
It is. We got a pink class coming up onto this one
actually-
as well.
I like the Holy Paladin in this dungeon. I actually think it's pretty good.
I agree. I think like a dungeon like Workshop and ones like King's Rest are not horrible for Mistweaver Monk, but they don't highlight its strengths as well, especially when you're running into like Tinker mobs or Defender mobs that are spawning any of the shells that you can hide in that reduce everybody's damage taken, and so you don't really need to heal that much, even if there is high trash density. And the areas that there aren't high trash density, like the gauntlet before third boss as well, there's you go from 5 mobs to 3 down to 1, and that's 5 minutes of your time or something like that. Not really big highlight areas for a monk.
Exactly, and it's like we were talking about in the King's Rest. You kind of have to pick your battles, especially if you're way more comfortable in something like a Holy Paladin, where it's like you kind of have to, like, if you're able to make it fit where it works. I'm sure, dude, like this Workshop is more like you can play any. I would say you could even play like Resto Druid, Resto Shaman, even a Disc Priest in here, and probably the dungeon is functionally still the same, right?
Don't tempt me. They do a great job here, Ellesmere taunting the No Mercy to make sure that he was able to keep the tank sitting right underneath the hammer onto that one. So you can use the hammer as many times as you want on No Mercy, but once it ends up getting, I know, right? Once it ends up getting hit by the Platinum Pummeler, that's when it starts disabling. Am I alright? Yeah, apparently there's some funny stuff a minute ago.
That wasn't me, dude.
You sure? You're giggling right now.
I mean, that wasn't me in the background.
Anyway, Pummeler's gonna go down right now as the final hammers are chipping away its armor. It looks like Fly Me Out and the scripted content are killing it around the same time. Oh, they dodged it! No Mercy dodged the hammer swing as the vent just starts going off. Okay. Skipping.
So scripted content is doing a really good job of being able to stack up underneath that hammer and get the maximum value. Like, there's an execute component to the hammers as well. So once they are sub 30% range, you want like all 5 players underneath them, and then you just hammer down the Platinum Pummeler and No Mercy to be able to break that last Platinum shield thing, and you just get
Platinum plating.
immense value. Plating, whatever it is.
Whoa, alright. That's a big
Sorry.
part of his design, alright? And they chip away all of it. Fly Me Out's going down as well into the trash. 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 Trash, 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 trash. There we go. Thank you. Come on, you got to join in on this one. It's a chance.
This is a great one. So now scripted content is pulling these double waste processing units by themselves.
These mobs are
little
very
bit
annoying
different.
to deal with.
Okay, so they are very annoying to deal with because their hitboxes are like whack, but it's kind of interesting to see how both of these two teams are pulling this dungeon, especially compared to what we saw earlier, where every other team like pulled all of the goos and then just like melted everything off because it is bolstering. Like, let it be known that it is bolstering, so those wasting slimes or whatever will bolster up and or just like make the world's largest waste processing unit, so then you just melt it off. But scripted content and Fly Me Out both come to the same decision of playing Samurai Beckoner of Chaos. They're going to take the double obelisk approach probably with King Mechagon.
I was about to say, they're both going to kill the obelisk that's guarding the Machinist Garden. So at this point, just 2 obelisks be the expectation. And that's kind of to be expected. I believe that, I'm trying to remember, I think they have a Tank Buster that's guarding Machinist Garden and the Maze. So they would be running with Blood of the Corruptor and Caster. That's not bad.
Yeah. Because Blob is also sometimes over there near Machinist Garden as well.
Yes.
It alternates. That's the AB rotation.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the AB rotation that we have at the moment. Actually, no. Regarding Machinist Garden is either caster or...
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
The Mouther one. Yeah,
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
Before the gate to Machinist Garden, not the one on top of the trash mobs. There we go. Cujo's getting pulled on the side of scripted content, who we might be having a little bit of issues with our overlay onto this one, but just take our word for it. Left side is scripted content. Right side is Fly Me Out. I have a fantastic memory onto these things. We do see Moofsy getting killed, but they dropped the res on him, if I'm not mistaken. I just don't know if they were able to
Not yet.
complete it.
Where
Yeah,
is
I
he?
guess it was a 5-second duration out of that one, so they weren't really able to cover its bases. But you know, now we get even more gaming content.
Thalamir. Okay, so Thalamir pops his turtle. Pretty good move there. You saw him get corruption slowed, so he's in a bit of a pickle. This is a good. Okay, so scripted content was really far in the head, in the lead because of how they did Platinum Pummeler No Mercy. Fly Me Out now able to capitalize on this Moofsy Daisy, as been coined by Drapnus before.
Is that what it is?
That's what he calls it sometimes.
Wait,
and I
that's
just
what
roll my
Moofsy
eyes
calls it?
every single. That's what Dratnos calls
Oh,
it. Now
okay,
he's
okay.
Roll my eyes.
I was gonna say if somebody made a mistake and then they made a pun off their name as we depleted a key, I might just lose my lunch.
It's a swift lob. Ooh, now Cujo's dead even for both these teams.
That's
Now Moose
right.
is getting rezzed there by Displacers.
Yeah, that res took forever onto that one. And thankfully, they didn't get hit by one of the boxes dropping down, but they need to be able to pull this one together as, you know, the leads can be pretty razor thin in a workshop in general, so it very likely will start coming down to people's execution on the final boss, because that boss is no joke and does take, you know, good 5-6 minutes plus, depending on the obelisks.
Scripted content right there, you actually do see on the right-hand side. They've positioned Cujo to where all of their hunters can hit Cujo through the box. There is a weak aura that you can... Oh, Versify goes down, being a little bit greedy for the same thing that scripted content got.
Did you want to link up the weak aura?
I was going to mention the weak aura.
Yeah, there you go.
no,
he
dude,
gets
Ellisbeer-
boxed! His body has gotten buried by the box. I think I don't know if they can even target him because it would be line of sight, right?
That's not the bad part.
Oh, the bad part
that
is
the box is about
no,
to
they're
explode.
positioning it the wrong way. They need to wrap around. They need to wrap Cujo around, and they need to actually stand very far back. This is gonna explode onto them, and maybe.
Please don't die.
Okay.
Please don't die.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I think Jack and I have been. I think Jack and I have had the same problem before, where you get the box too close and it like explodes, blowing you into the vent jets, and then you just immediately have a full team wipe.
Yes.
So,
oh yes, indeed.
So we all had that moment of anxiety of like, oh no, dude.
Just know how that death feels, especially because Cujo just takes a while. It's just a long-lasting boss, and it requires a lot of work to deal with. And if we're seeing scripted content clearing out some of the trash as we speak. They're going to be going, once again, like we talked about, into this gauntlet. Not too dense in terms of trash that we have to deal with onto this one. So, in many cases, this is kind of, if you look at King's Rest, right? King's Rest, you have the gauntlet with all the kings. You're hoping that you're able to grab some of the golems to try to make things a little bit more efficient. Right here, it's just a kind of a moment for them to rest, chill out, and not make extra mistakes here.
Yeah. So in live key scenarios, you would actually probably bloodlust this next pack that's coming up for both of these teams that obtains those like robots. But on the tournament realm, since both of these teams are probably going to be playing double obelisk with King Mechagon, having that on pull is imperative to their strategy. So they're going to probably be saving their bloodlust for an extended period of time.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, just waiting for what's going to be most important, which is probably going to be the head machinist at this point, because there's just going to be so much that they have to deal with, and so many different areas where extra damage can cause people just to instantly die.
You want to know something that's a little bit interesting, Jack?
I would love so many different areas where extra damage can cause people just to instantly die.
You want to know something that's a little bit interesting, Jack?
I would love to know something that's just a little bit.
Whenever you actually click the obelisks, you can hear N'Zoth talk, and he tells you which mob is actually inside of the obelisk.
Yeah. Do you want to know something else slightly interesting? He will interrupt you drinking whenever he talks, whether it's somebody in your group activating an obelisk, or whether you pull the last boss activating the obelisk. It stands you up.
That's what stands you up, because I know you can like mount up if you're quick enough and stuff. while entering the obelisk, or like you can just like even spam stealth, or like you'll stay out of combat for a few seconds. But I didn't know that that's what the activator was.
Yep, so any healer's trying to drink, and then they activate the obelisk on you, and then you get forced out of your drink. That's why.
Listen.
This is the obelisk I was talking about, by the way, the AB, but it's either caster or tank buster under this one, so it is the caster here.
Kick guy. Hear that? It was an Azoth.
I actually didn't have the sound on.
Well, I just,
what was the line for the caster?
kick guy.
Yes, Tettles?
It's kick guy.
Well, I thought he was saying something to say. You know, there's like, let your eyes be open. You'll never escape the circle. Trying to remember all the lines. Come on, Tettles, you're a lore nerd. Nut.
I know the Spire names.
Yes, you do. You memorized
Weaver
them.
Malthier, home of the Cursed Spire of Nyalotha.
I remember you memorizing them.
Blood of the Corruptor, home of the Defiled Spire of Nyalotha.
Fly me out.
Samrak, Beckoner of Chaos, home of the Entropic Spire of Nyalotha.
Okay.
And Urgroth, Breaker of Heroes, home of the Brutal Spire of Nyalotha. Don't ask me why I know that. It's just happened.
All that Wowhead guide training has been going to work, my friend. We did see a pretty cool snap spot there by Suffer to make sure that he was grabbing the caster mob to make sure that it was going to go into position so they didn't have to wait on it for far too long. Scripted content already engaged with the head machinist Sparkflux as they get to go ring around the Rosie. And did you know, slightly interesting as well, the beams for Sparkflux are pretty similar to N'Zoth, where they like take another second to like move before they actually start going out. All about that
Do
patience.
they alternate every other time? Do you know?
That I don't know. So we saw it go counterclockwise. Yeah, we saw it go counterclockwise on this one. So I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to watch and find out. We'll be able to discover new things together, and our friendship will blossom as well.
Head Machinist Sparkflux, whenever you're playing this boss on live, you really hope that this boss does not go longer than 3 minutes. Otherwise, you'll have 8 cogs out at once, and that is very frustrating for anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody who ever wants any uptime on the boss.
It really makes me wish that I took physics in college because I was not prepared for some of the way these cogs move around the room. I think that fire also just moved in the same direction. It's still in that counterclockwise formation. So I believe it's going to be going the same way, or it's just a fun guessing game.
So the cogs actually bounce off like the tangent of the surface, but
Ooh.
the weird part is that the surfaces are rounded.
Yes.
So it's hard for you to be able to judge like really accurately where it's going to go, and then you're just like, dude, that's baloney. Why did I get hit by that?
Yep.
But both of these teams doing a really good job getting their Ready for Raider 11 achievement or whatever this
I think
is.
it was like 7 or 8 or something like that. You know who I saw get the Ready for Rating achievement the other day? Drados.
Drados got ready.
Oh, he
for
got it
Raiders?
on Motherload. Because there's the Ready for Rating on Motherload, and I guess it's not called Ready for Rating, but there's like a similar achievement of don't get hit by anything on this boss.
Oh,
this
yeah,
one.
yeah.
So, he casted 3 battle reses and did not get hit by anything. I was quite proud of him. Scripted content on the other side is going to be taking down the machinist. Nobody earning any achievements, unfortunately, on that end. I wish we could just start seeing whenever they get an achievement. But
That'd be really funny.
they should have it where it's like a /save for the achievements, like pops up and you just like declare, "Ha! I have the achievement."
What if they got the achievement for completing the dungeon for the first time?
That wouldn't be the first time in MDI history that has happened.
Yes, I believe that has happened a few times.
That's right. They are going to be dealing with the remaining trash up here, and
Oh,
that was really close. He still gets hit anyway. Man, those squirrels take no prisoners, and the thing from beyond has claimed a life. I think that might be one of the first times we've seen just a direct, full thing from beyond death, but it has gotten its kill. Oh my goodness, drunk going down to the thing from beyond.
Well,
You saw it here
That
first.
happens.
MDI history has been made.
yeah. Okay, so since it is teaming, there's a triple tonk up here, and if you end up killing that one that scripted content has marked with a skull, then you end up spawning that robot that will, the vehicle robot that will take you up to the top. So these teams are probably going to be looking to get the other two about at the 10% range, since it is bolstering, and then killing that early one. Actually, it looks like they may just be killing that skull one as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, because, I mean, if you're killing everything equally, then you're waiting. If you're killing that one first, then at least the mob will be ready for you when you need it, when you want it, right? You can immediately just click afterwards, so you're not having to waste any sort of downtime. So
It depends on the value of bolstering versus time, right?
sure, but at that point they only waited 2 or 3 seconds, as opposed
Yeah.
to 5 or 8, something like that. It was worth. It was worth. They made the good play.
Yeah.
Oh, Ellesmere there getting
Oh,
chunked
both these teams are
by
neck and neck, actually.
the chonker tank right now. As yeah, they're a couple seconds behind, but Suffer goes down right now. They need to make sure that they kill these mobs very quickly. The checkpoint is right around the corner in the Machinist Garden, so Suffer will be able to hop into the mech and fly around with all his friends. So it's going to be down to that final boss right now, as Scripted Content's had a fragile lead, and they're continuing to try to stay in that same spot, but this final boss is going to be an absolute pleasure to see.
But dude, they still have like one of the most dangerous trash packs in all of Mythic Plus here up ahead at that top landing area. Scripted Content is going to be able to need to be able to deal with that pack really well. It has a mob that casts an overclock to all of the targets, and if the Mark III robots get that overclock onto them, you will probably wipe immediately.
Yes, absolutely. And here we go, as they're going to be working to get the remaining trash percentage. They will have a lot of defensive fields to work with onto this one. I think it's going to be more of a matter of making sure that everybody's staying in those, and you're also kind of timing out when you can stand in the shield generator for any of the anti-personnel squirrels, as well as when you need to leave onto that one. 'Cause I'm pretty sure.
Repair.
Yep, repair did go off. They have short outs coming up as well. The shield generator's about to fail, so they're really going to have to start using some defensives here in just a sec. Okay, they timed it pretty well onto that one. Moving on to the next shield generator.
Another reason that this pack is so bad, so difficult to deal with, I was going to say so bad, but so difficult to deal with, is because there's only one defender in the pack, but there's double Mark III robot that does short out, so the damage intake is incredibly high. It's just very challenging to deal with. Oh, anti-personnel
It's
squirrel.
high, and there's the squirrel, and that's what it is. Thala goes down, and the biggest thing is that, yes, you'll have some areas where you're safe, but people need to understand the pack of when the shield generators will fail, when they will despawn, and when you're vulnerable to getting killed by the squirrel or the short outs. That's just what makes it such a challenge to deal with. Thala goes down, a little bit of extra deaths on the board, and here's hoping that they don't regret it, as Fly Me Out's dealing with this. Oh my goodness. Another short out. Oh. Everyone's got to pop bubbles. Bubbles. Oh no, he did even have lay on hands as well at his disposal, but didn't use it. Wings was just coming back. No bubble available for Ellesmere. They are going to use a battle res. They're going to be still a little bit behind, but they just do not have time to wait. They need to go right now.
The scripted content here on King Mechagon himself. They are trying to elude his targeting systems, but Jack...
You cannot elude my targeting systems.
You cannot elude my targeting systems. As you do see that Giga Zap coming out on the players. Now King
Activate
Mechagon is doing the...
thrusters.
Activating thrusters! Dude, I love this boss. This boss has the greatest voice line ever.
It's great.
Okay, so Blood of the Corruptor here should be dying shortly, and then once it does die, then those purple puddles that you actually see on the ground right here will go away, giving scripted content significantly more space in the room. They have one battle res available left to them. At this point, they're kind of in the home free stretch, where basically as long as you don't die to the Magneto arm, you're kind of okay.
We'll see onto that one. I mean, I've seen a number of times where teams are extremely good at dancing and baiting wherever the magnets will go to, and I've seen times where they've made a ton of mistakes, so we'll see onto that one. We do see Shadow going down to the side of Fly Me Out. They have one battle res left at their disposal, so we are seeing Azuna going in for the res at that point as the Breaker of Heroes is out almost down. We do see the full bubble coming out from the side of Ellesmere as he's just trying to catch up and get back into the game on this one. Takeoff going up for King Mechagon and his aerial vehicle.
Okay, hold on. Let me do the ha after this.
Okay.
Watch this.
Oh my god! All right.
So the scripted content has now.
You want to see that true ordinance? I'll happily oblige.
Now they have to deal with the Omega Buster before King Mechagon will come out again. Fly Me Out, still dealing with the aerial unit. Basically, they're hoping that scripted content has a major mistake and ends up wiping here.
But
I think it would have to come via the Magneto arm, right?
it would have to onto this one. I mean, because right now, all power to weapons. They are already working on taking down the Omega Buster. Okay, when it comes out, I need you to say it. I need you to call this Magneto.
What
arm.
do they say?
Magnetic grapple engaged.
Oh, that's right, dude. Gosh, there's so many good voice
Right?
lines on this boss. I just can't even remember them all. Did you know something? I actually tried to living action potion this stun on King Mechagon and tried to kill him once. It didn't work.
How did that work out for you?
It didn't even let me use the living
Oh,
action
okay. I was gonna
potion.
say. Well, don't you have to use the living action potion in advance to avoid
No,
getting
no.
stunned to begin with? 'Cause I thought
You
it.
can use it after the stun.
Oh, okay. They had changed it so you had to use it before that you ended up getting stunned.
There's like a free action potion too.
Okay,
There's like 2 different potions.
that's
yeah.
right. We learned that. We learned that with a long
Classic,
time ago.
yeah.
Oh, Dave's getting hit by a couple of magnets. And another fun fact, since we've been dropping them all over the place, the magnets hit a lot harder on Fortified than they do on Tyrannical for some reason.
All right, so Omega Buster here is starting to drop incredibly low. Then you have to respect the 1v1 as the healer gets top priority on downing King Mechagon. You must respect the 1v1.
I've never gotten to 1v1 the boss. What is this?
Really?
Yeah. People
Group
always
doesn't
just taking my kills. Oh, Drunk
Oh,
going
goodness.
down incredibly low. Ooh, we were seeing more things from beyond. Drunk does end up dying as here it comes. King Mechagon's death is upon us as he just gets chunked down. A lot of extra deaths throughout this run that, you know, we weren't
Scripted content.
quite
Writing the
expecting.
script.
They wrote the script, and in their script, they're the winners right now as they move on to tomorrow.
I'd just like to make an official statement that anytime we have workshop, can we please ban it? Yeah. So we don't have to hear these two.
What?
What are you talking about, dude?
I don't know.
Something about our targeting